Welcome to the For the Birds podcast. I'm Eric Olson, here hosting with Judge Adams, and today we're diving into marketing and advertising for lawyers. Would you all introduce yourselves and a little bit about your practice before we get started?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Collier County Judge Blake Adams. Been serving on the bench since 2019. I'm into my second term now. I currently serve on the criminal division and traffic divisions in county court, having previously served in the civil division. A fun fact about me is that I went to law school and graduate school for banking law and an MBA, having served in the financial services industry for 10 years, and then somehow wound up in a legal career in criminal law.
All right, I'm Damian Taylor. I've been in Naples going on 24 years. I've been practicing for a little over 30 years. I focus my practice on employment law, primarily representing employers, defending them when they get sued and advising them how not to get sued. And then I also have a fairly diverse civil litigation practice. Fun fact, hopefully you're okay with me sharing this. I had the pleasure and the honor of recruiting and hiring Eric in what I think was maybe his first private practice job out of law school shortly after he graduated University of Miami. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it's been a little while.
Quite a few.
Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Weldon. I practice personal injury law at the law firm of Weldon and Rothman. I've been in Naples practicing since 2003, and we focus our practice on employment law, personal injury, and insurance claims. Fun fact about me is that I've recently gotten into the horse racing industry and had a big winner a couple weeks ago. We'll go on to race in some bigger races this year. So,
my name's Paul Sanfilippo. I've been an attorney licensed to practice law in Florida since 1991. I'm a graduate of Columbia University. I got my degree in economics in 1988 and a graduate of the University of Miami. Go Canes.
Go you.
And I received my law degree in 1991. I started my practice doing primarily insurance defense in Miami for a couple of years, and then moved to a commercial litigation firm, a small boutique firm where we did first-party insurance and commercial. My partner and I established our firm here in Naples in 1996. Before that, I was pretty unfamiliar with Naples, so when we moved over here, I didn't know that many people. But we established our firm in 1996, and we've been together practicing as Side and Sticker and Sanfilippo since that time.
First question for the seasoned lawyers. How did you market your legal practice when you first started, and how has your approach changed over the years?
well, I will tell you in early 2000s, many of the law firms in Naples didn't even have a website. So when we were first starting our practice in 2006, getting, I think, out in front of kind of advertising online was a big key for us. So we were, obviously we did a website very quickly. We set up some social media campaigns. When Google AdWords started, we were probably one of the first to really utilize Google AdWords at the time. So I think, it was important for us to kind of take that lead at the very beginning when we didn't have a lot of established clients, because obviously we were brand new, not only brand new to Naples and running our own law firm, but just starting off your own practice, so you don't have that established client base. So I think that was very important to us, and it was an interesting time period because the believe it or not, internet was really just getting started at that time.
Well, I think for me, I don't know that I really thought much about marketing until maybe I was a 7-year lawyer, just having moved to Naples. I think before that, the focus was just on billing hours and doing the work that other lawyers had originated. In a little around the 7-year mark is when I moved to Naples, and I didn't know anybody in town other than the folks that I was going to be working with. And I realized that originating business was important. It was something I wanted to do. There was no real roadmap per se about how to go about doing that. And so I started doing a combination of things, from speaking to different groups, writing articles, joining boards, getting involved with the chamber. It helped, I think, tremendously that I had a background in what most people would probably consider a niche practice, and that is employment law. I did a lot of general civil litigation, but there were so many civil litigators in Naples, Southwest Florida at the time, but there were really probably only a couple of people that held themselves out as practicing employment law. So that was just a real easy way in for me, and I found a group of local HR professionals. I joined their organization. So it was really just a combination of things, not knowing whether any one of them or all of them collectively were going to pay off. I was just kind of taking shots in the dark at the time.
I do recall I actually do have my original phone book ads too. So I did have, I remember the day I did the dollar size ad. That's how one of the ways you could buy them was dollar size. So I remember doing that, and somewhere in my office I still have the first few years of the original phone book ads.
Well, when we first started, we really didn't have a marketing strategy. We were two guys. We used my partner's father's truck to move office furniture in. We had limited resources, and that's an understatement. We moved in across from the high school in a building, and we hung a sign on the door. And my partner, his parents had lived here, and his father sponsored a couple of events. One was at the Collier Athletic Club, and one was at his house. We got introduced to some people that they knew that were in the legal community. We joined the Bar Association, and early on I became a member of Inns of Court. Ended up being the president of Inns of Court in 2003, 2004. So aside from that, I try to get myself out there on weekends, going to places where people were. I would drag my wife to events, bar events, sponsored by the Young Lawyers Division, and just getting out to local areas for happy hours. Through that social interaction, I met other lawyers and other professionals in town, and kind of the networking by word of mouth happened. At the same time, initially I was driving back and forth to Miami because I had a couple of cases that were pending over there, and we didn't have Zoom back then, so you had to appear in person. So I still had a few clients from Miami. We started developing our clientele, probably took us a month or two, and we built it from there. Our marketing has been pretty consistent. We don't advertise. We have in the past in certain things. I was a sponsor of the Greater Naples Little League, so we would have an advertisement of our firm in the brochures. We've done some things like that. We've sponsored the Collier County Bar. But as far as advertising, we haven't done any radio, television, billboard type of advertising, and we haven't done any social media advertising. The way our marketing has changed is we've gotten older. We've had more cases, more clients. We've interacted with more attorneys. More people are familiar with the services we provide to our clients and the scope and the areas of practice. So we're primarily referral based now from other clients and other lawyers.
So Do you find yourself competing at all in the marketing space with any big firms, or is it mostly referral based where you get your clients these days?
Well, I think the reality of it is that if you're a small or new firm, you're not going to be able to compete with the same budgets of large, advertising firms. You're just not. So I think the ideal thing to do is to really focus in on what you do and what your firm wants to be, and to try to use your marketing plan to fit an overall plan of who you are and who you want to be. And that goes for your advertising dollars. It goes for your time and how much time you can commit to marketing, you personally and your firm as a whole. And I think the main thing is being as efficient as you can with your advertising dollars. I think a lot of people do spend a lot on advertising, and I don't know if there is always that return on investment that especially smaller, newer firms are looking for. When you don't have any clients, if you're brand new and you just started an office, well, you have a lot more time. So utilize that time to shake hands and go meet people and get out into the community and do things that you still enjoy, so that you're still meeting people out in the community that know that you're an attorney, and if something happens that they're gonna call you. But as you start to get more and more clients over time, you want to probably try to narrowly tailor those marketing dollars so that it's specifically what you're looking for. And that's the best way you can do it when you're comparing what your budget might be compared to some of these very large advertising firms.
One thing I've noticed a change in, we used to do a lot more personal injury. And I'm sure everybody's noticed a change. There's a lot of competition in the television, radio, and billboard advertising for that. You have the Morgan and Morgans, the Farah and Farahs, and we haven't seen as many of the big PI cases come across our desks in recent years, and I'm not sure if that is the reason that these people, a lot of people today go online and they have links and they're signed up basically without any contact now. Everything's electronic, DocuSign. In a lot of cases, my understanding is they don't even meet with an attorney. There's no real evaluation. So I don't know if that's responsible for it, but we still take those cases. We just don't get as many.
Let me ask you a question, Rick. You touched on something that made me wonder. Is there a way that you're tracking how your responses are to your advertising or your marketing?
Yeah, I mean, they're on every one of our intakes. We will always have asked the potential new client, how did they get our name? Okay, and then we do monitor that, and we try to, I can't say it's perfect, I can't say it's exact, but we try to keep track generally where our cases are coming from. And I can say that it has affected our overall budget even as to where we're spending those dollars.
That was going to be my next question is have you changed your marketing plan after getting those results?
We have, and I think it's more of a reaction to or a result of having a larger prior client base. And I think it's always been said, the best advertising you can always do is doing a really good job for your clients so that those clients are referring their friends and family members to you when they have a legal matter. And that is by far the best referral, and it's by far the cheapest referral. Mm-hmm. So over the years, trying to leverage those past clients has become a much more effective, efficient, and cheaper way for us to market ourselves. And that has definitely evolved over time. We couldn't have done that in the first year. I mean, you have no clients to try to get those referrals from. But over time, I think it's important to kind of see where you're at, big picture wise, and how your marketing budget is working for where you are at that time in your firm's career.
Anything to add, Damien?
Well, I guess my experience with marketing has been different, and maybe it's a function of the nature of the practice and the nature of the marketing that we do. We don't focus so much on what I would consider traditional advertising. We did finally get a website, and I can relate to Rick's recollection about how so few firms did have one. I think we entered into the website world a little bit kicking and screaming, and it was certainly after some years after I arrived in Naples, which was back in 2001. But with my marketing efforts, it's so hard, I have found, to track success. And I haven't really tried, I think, for that reason. But I also haven't worried too much about it because, to Rick's point, I have primarily spent my time marketing in ways that I enjoy. And whether that's getting involved in the Bar Association, serving on the boards of different sections of the Collier County Bar, and then the main Collier County Bar Association, going to bar events, getting involved in Inns of Court. I have found that while I've spent a lot of time speaking to different business groups and serving on different boards, probably my greatest referrals from a fee generating standpoint have come from other lawyers. And you know, I don't know that there's any one right way to do it. I'm sure there are plenty of lawyers who have not been involved in our local bar association events or who haven't remained involved that are wildly successful. But to me, I give credit to that involvement for the referrals that I have gotten from other lawyers. And again, having a bit of a niche practice has been helpful. But it's you know, I can go to meeting after meeting of the chamber, and I could be hard pressed after all those meetings of hundreds of people, you know, often at each meeting, to think of how many referrals I got from that. And then I can think of a meeting, a presentation I did to a group of only 5 payroll company customers, where one of those customers became a client when his business was probably fewer than 10 people, and now they have well over 50 people, and they're still a client, you know, almost 20 years later. So you just never know what's going to pay off. And again, I think that's another reason why it's helpful to engage in those marketing efforts that you also enjoy doing, because they don't always pan out, and you want them to be worthwhile nonetheless.
So I'm going to go off script here, but I'm going to ask you another question, Damien. So what would you say to young attorneys who may not be comfortable in physical social settings, who are used to online settings, social media, things of that nature, to try to get out of their comfort zone and be in more physical social activities?
That's a good question, and I used to be one of those people when I was younger. And it's something maybe that I grew out of, and maybe to some extent I just developed tools for coping with those situations. Everybody needs to kind of find their own way. I do think Inns of Court in particular is fantastic for putting younger lawyers or less sociable lawyers, more introverted lawyers at ease because of the team concept, and being assigned to a team right away, and oftentimes at the first meeting already having a plan implemented by your team's captain to get together during the social hour and meet each other. And I think other than that, if you're not completely comfortable with that type of setting, maybe find another lawyer that you do know and drive together to the bar lunch or the happy hour. And I think over time, your involvement, if you can muscle through some of those uncomfortable moments, will really pay off. And we hear it preached so often, but I am a huge believer in the fact that getting involved, staying involved in the local bar association, whether it's through section meetings, the big bar events, Inns of Court, it's what makes it such a pleasure to practice law in our community. Most of the lawyers know each other. We know the judges and vice versa. I think there's a greater level of civility, professionalism because of that. It's easier to resolve cases and work against lawyers when you have a relationship that's partly a social relationship as well.
I think we toyed with the idea of the Google ads and then they have this maximization or optimization that gets you on the first page and pay. The problem, as you and I were chatting briefly before this, is we're a small firm, and our client base has been primarily referral based from attorneys, sometimes judges, sometimes clients. They come from a wide variety of places. The problem I see with a small firm having advertising or either social media advertising or links to clients where clients can link to the firm is, I prefer to have a small number of good referrals rather than a large volume of cases that either I or my partner have to sift through. We have to investigate it or at least give it a review in a PI case, police report. If it's a car accident, you want to interview the client, find out what their injuries are, what the liability posture is, what the insurance may be. So it takes an awful lot of time. So, that's one of the things that I consider when doing a program that would provide, more potential leads, but would require more time in terms of reviewing those leads and sifting through them to make sure that we take cases that we want to handle and we think we'll be successful
on. AI-driven tools like chatbots or predictive analysis and AI-generated content, they're becoming very common in legal marketing. So do you all see AI shaping client acquisition or the practice of law? And how do we maybe keep technological advancements in mind when practicing safely and within the rules?
SEO, LSA, pay-per-click, and ROI.
Pay per click, not pay per click.
And ROI and lead generation. And I actually called my paralegal in to ask if she knew what any of that was, because I absolutely have no idea. I think it will shape our website to some extent. Again, we're a small firm, so our inquiries are pretty much limited to referrals from clients and lawyers. So we still receive the bulk of our business through direct phone calls into our office. They speak to a live person, and appointments are set up. We call back. So we haven't used AI in our marketing. I can envision it being used on websites to post blogs, to help draft website material. We just have not evolved, I guess, to that point just yet.
I definitely think that AI is currently and will continue to be utilized by law firms. I will tell you that I am not very trusting and never have been of anybody putting anything out representing our law firm without me at least reviewing it first. So, and I think AI in the marketing world is no different than AI in the legal research and drafting world. To me, it's a tool. I think it's very helpful to make marketing more efficient, but it has to be really, really reviewed before it gets put out. And same thing with what you're producing and providing to a judge. You wouldn't just print it off ChatGPT and give it to a judge. You wouldn't, in my world, you would not just ask for an article to be written and push it out there as your law firms in the marketing world. It works the same way. I think you're responsible for everything that gets put out that represents your law firm. So I just think you have to be very careful, review it, edit it. And if you're working with somebody who does not do that, then find a new marketing person because they're out there. They understand if you want to review everything before it gets posted and stuff. There's certainly firms out there that'll do that. But I think it's really important to review anything before it gets posted.
Yeah, and I think I have the same sentiments as Rick. I'm probably not as adept at answering that question because I'm a little old school at this stage in my career, being 57 years old. I can see how AI could play a role maybe in the client screening process. We've all had that experience where you go on a company's website and a little chat window shows up, and I can imagine I'm not really perhaps chatting with a real person, but the responses and the questions are being pushed out by a program. But I've never been comfortable with a less personal approach. I still answer phone calls from prospective clients I don't know, and I return phone calls. I may rely on an assistant to get basic contact information for a conflict check. We use an outside marketing firm as well, but I think the content that they create for us is created by them and sourced by them. Even then, we have to be really careful to make sure that before it gets pushed out, it's still up to date. Over the last year or so, just as an example, everybody will probably remember the Federal Trade Commission passed a rule last summer, I think it was, that would have banned many non-compete agreements throughout the country. And we were about to post something about that on our LinkedIn page, and then all of a sudden, a federal judge issued an injunction enjoining the implementation of the rule nationwide. So, that would have looked pretty poor on our part had we pushed out the original, marketing content without checking the status of that legal issue. So I'm very wary of AI as well, and probably just a little too old and not creative enough to think about, how it could be implemented well in a marketing standpoint.
Have either of you used ChatGPT at all or something of the like in your practices? And it goes into the question of incorporating AI into your practice.
I think, Eric, your question was, have we incorporated ChatGPT or the like into the legal practice? We have certainly been using AI in research, not relying on it exclusively, but using it as a starting point. We were talking a little bit before we began here today about how Westlaw has a component of its service that allows subscribers to use an AI generated search engine, I guess. And sometimes it produces some pretty quick and helpful results. So I think it's a tool in the toolbox. As often as it has been helpful, there have been just as many times where the response is kind of vague and wishy-washy, and then you look at the authorities that it cites in reliance for the information that it generates, and you can just tell that that's not something you'd want to rely on. And at that point, you go and you resort to the more traditional methods of research to see if you can get a better basis for the conclusion that you're trying to evaluate.
Rick, did you have anything to add?
No, and we're utilizing AI in pretty much the same way that Damien mentioned. Nothing really else there.
If AI is generating material for either your website, or it's generating a podcast, or any type of marketing materials, I know that the Florida Bar has fairly strict rules on lawyer advertising, marketing, what's allowed, what's not allowed. I can envision some issues where AI may generate content that is not reviewed, but it's, I guess, automatically posted or uploaded to a website that is not bar compliant. So I'm not sure what tools there are out there to have AI at least review and make sure that the content that it is creating is compliant, but I can see an issue with the marketing rules and AI potential issues for lawyers, because as lawyers we all know that the buck stops with the license that hangs on the wall, so we don't want to get in trouble.
Obviously, as AI is used more, I guess the idea is that it will get better. Do you think that will be the case for the legal profession, or because of the ever-changing case law, statutes, rules, do you think it will have a tough time keeping up?
I think it's going to get much better. I think it'll continue to grow. I think it'll continue to be a tool that will be utilized more and more by law firms every single day. And I think the programs, the Westlaws, the ChatGPTs are just going to get better and better and more timely, where they'll keep up with more and more updates, probably quicker than we would by waiting for the next Florida Supreme Court summaries to come out or something. So I think it's not going anywhere. It's definitely going to continue to increase and become a better tool over time. Now, my concern would be for that is if I was a student in law school and was looking for a law clerk position in Summers, or I was looking for that first year job, because I think at this point where it's most effective is kind of giving you that initial legal memo that otherwise you may have been relying upon a summer clerk or a first year associate or somebody to kind of give you that starting point that you as a partner would know that you would need to review very closely and make sure that it's accurate and on point. It's kind of utilizing that same tool, that same method right now, or you're using it in the same way as you would, especially at a larger law firm. And that's how I think it's going to be used more and more going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of lawyers, I'm worried about the potential for AI to become so good that it puts lawyers out of a job. I would like to think that there's so much gray area in what we do, and what I often find myself telling clients is there's no risk-free approach here. You have options available to you, and these are the pros and cons associated with this option versus that option, and I don't know how well AI will do navigating the gray, identifying and explaining the gray area. Hopefully I won't have to worry about that. It is interesting, though. I have had more clients come to me with documents that they have created with the assistance of AI, employee handbooks, for example. And it's just becoming a headache. It used to be I'd get an employee handbook that would average 30 pages, 40 pages would be kind of long. I've gotten a couple lately that are 90 pages, 100 plus pages, and I can just tell that the content is coming from the internet, and in some cases the client acknowledged that they used AI to put it together, which just makes more work for me to review it all and adds to the cost for the client.
Do you think how important do you think it is for young attorneys or law students to be adept at using AI programs for the future practice of the law?
I think it'll continue to be important. I think the main thing that they have to recognize and really understand is that it is a starting point and it is just a tool. It just cannot be relied upon, and you can't. What I'd be concerned about is that, as Damien mentioned earlier, you still have to utilize those traditional ways of legal research and writing, and you have to be able to verify with what you're using, and really just using pieces of it generally is what I would suggest, or forming arguments off of what you're getting from AI potentially, but really utilizing your own legal research and for the cases and things of that sort, and making sure that you don't lose sight of the fact that you still have to do your own legal research, and you cannot rely upon anything that ChatGPT or any of these other AI programs are telling you, because they will make up things to fit the purpose that you're looking for. But so I think it's going to be important for them to utilize it as a tool, but the most important thing is to realize that it's just a starting point for them.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that there's no substitute now, and there will continue to be no substitute for a lawyer's ability to read a case from start to finish, to be able to analyze the case, and what the particular facts of that case may be that lead to the decision that's reached in that case, and the ability to then distinguish that case from other cases. And I'm told that Westlaw's AI assisted research service does allow for lawyers to not only, as we traditionally did, key cite cases, but they'll come up with the distinguishing cases, and they'll tell you how this case was different. But yeah, like Rick said, there's no substitute for reading the case yourself and really being able to understand it, distinguish it, explain it to the court.
Are there any ethical concerns about AI generated legal content that you have? And we've touched on that a little bit. And should the Florida Bar rules be updated to reflect the changes?
I think, as we kind of touched on already, is the bottom line is it doesn't matter whether it's somebody in your office coming up with marketing content or an AI program that's coming up with certain marketing content. The bottom line is it has to be reviewed, and you're still responsible for it. So to me, it doesn't make a difference. I think the current Florida Bar rules should be sufficient, but just an emphasis on the fact that the attorney is still the one responsible for what's being published, what's going out. So it doesn't, to me, I think the rules are sufficient the way they are. It's just how they're going to be implemented and enforced going forward.
I agree. Between the potential for sanctions under 57105, Rule 11, the duty of candor to the court, the other rules of professionalism and ethical conduct, the risk of malpractice liability, that should be plenty to incentivize lawyers to be very careful. And we've all heard about those cases where lawyers do get sanctioned for relying too heavily on AI. So I don't think the rules need to be updated either, although it won't surprise me if they are.
Let's switch topics just slightly a little bit, and we'll go to social media compliance and ethics. The Florida Bar has strict rules on misleading advertising, client confidentiality, and solicitation, specifically Rule 4-7.13, and ads must provide useful factual information presented in a dignified manner. And that was a citation from Rule 4-7.15. Can you think of an example where a legal ad went too far, and where should the line be drawn?
I personally cannot stand the big billboards with the checks with the $1 million on it being handed to a client like they just won the lottery. I mean, honestly, as a personal injury attorney, I think it probably helps our whole, in some ways, arguably, it can anchor certain dollar amounts and give some ideas out there for juries that this is what people are being, verdicts that are being rendered in these type of cases and stuff. So I get it personally. You have to do what you think is right. We would never do that. We would never do one of those. We have probably one of the few personal injury firms in Florida that we don't list our results. I think those are misleading, personally. Every case is different. Every situation's different. They call it personal injury for a reason, because they're personal. And whether or not there's a $10,000 bodily injury limit case, insurance policy in a case, or a $5 million policy in a case, that changes the case, the nature of that case. So just by putting the only real, I guess, fact you would say of the case out there is that this person received X amount of dollars, to me is not proper. It's not helpful, and it's not dignified in the way that they're done. So to me, that would be my one that I would say I would take action against if I was the Florida Bar.
Well, when it comes to social media, and again, I wouldn't say we are exactly trailblazers in this area, our firm, but I can think of a couple of practical examples of occasions when we've had to be real careful about the content that we put out. I mentioned we have a third-party firm that helps us with the marketing. And what they will occasionally do is come into the office. They'll take photographs of different firm members working at their desk, and there are papers around, and there's maybe documents up on the computer screen. And I remember early on we had to be very careful in pointing out that the content, the names that might be displayed on that computer screen, that could be displayed in those papers, cannot be visible. And so people need to turn the notepads or the papers, the documents over. The computer screens need to get turned off, or at least that information, those images need to be photoshopped out. That's the last thing you want to do, is publish something on social media that could display any client-specific work, or even the identities of your clients, which I think a lot of clients don't want to be disclosed. They don't necessarily want people to know that they've had to engage a lawyer. So that's one thing I think I should say people need to be thoughtful about before they publish content online. And also the use of the term specialist or expert. Lay people all the time use that terminology in referring to what a lawyer or a law firm may focus their practice on. And we have to be real careful to screen the content before it goes out on social media, that if that terminology, specialist or expert, is being used, that it's in reference to one of our lawyers who is Florida Bar Board certified, because last time I read the rules of professional conduct prohibit the use of that terminology if you are not board certified.
I see some TV commercials where they have testimonials and things like that, which I'm not personally a fan of. My wife makes me change the channel when she sees them because she doesn't like those either. I joke with her that one day she'll see my face on a billboard. I won't tell you what she said in response. Yeah, I also envision some issues with client consent too. You don't want to post a testimonial or have your AI bot post, say it mines the information or gathers the information from your files on recent trial wins, recent settlements, and actually creates the content and posts it with the client's identity on the website. I could see that as being a problem, and I know that is something that we're always conscious of when we post.
Okay, Rule 4-7.18 prohibits direct solicitation of clients. How do you balance digital marketing with ethical restrictions on direct client outreach, or does the traditional word-of-mouth referrals remain the gold standard?
In the personal injury world, there's been a lot of different efforts as far as marketing to, obviously folks who had just recently been injured or in an accident. I am not really aware of any effective ways. There's a million different marketing people that'll sell you all kinds of different ways. But I'm not really aware of anything that would be ethical under the Florida Bar rules where you could really pinpoint someone who was just recently involved in a motor vehicle accident. And if you could, then you have that same issue or problem as far as, well, how would you reach out to them and this and that and still comply within the rules. There are certain things that you can do, where you can, there's a letter that you can send that I read about your situation and this is where I read about it. And I haven't done that, so I haven't kept up with it all that much. But there are certain things you can provide within a letter and send out to somebody. But in a social media, I think where it comes up most today is if you were on Facebook or you're on any social media platform and somebody is talking about their motor vehicle accident that just occurred today. And, I think personally it would be inappropriate, even if they are the ones that put it out there, for you to reach directly out to that person to say, hey, I'm an attorney, call me. Now, there's all kinds of gray area. If you were in the comments section and somebody else replied and gave terrible advice, if you said, well, that's not really appropriate, they should really contact a local experienced personal injury attorney, and left it at that in your comment in response to somebody else's poor advice in the comments, to me, that would be appropriate. But I think there's definitely a lot of gray area in that. We have never really tried to target that specifically. And frankly, I think the only way that would really be possible would be the use of some type of runner, whether they're calling it a runner or not. But in the East Coast, at least, it's very popular and totally illegal for law firms to have people, put business cards in injury victims' pockets when they show up at the ER and things of that sort. And that's one of the reasons we've never used a lead generation company, never. And I wouldn't, because I don't know what they're doing. And I'm not going to have them out there doing something that I'm responsible for under Florida Bar rules. That I would have no idea how they're getting these leads and how they're doing it. So I think that's, the key to it all is just being wise, being smart, just knowing that you can't reach out to somebody directly unless you follow the Florida bar rules. And just make sure if you are utilizing any type of marketing company that you're comfortable with their practices and you know what those practices are.
And I don't know that I really have anything to add to that because our marketing is fairly limited. In my mind, it's limited to our website. We've got a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page. We tell people what we do and say, hey, here's how you can reach us if you need our help. None of which, to my knowledge, is directly targeting any particular person or group of people. And we've never been one of those firms that kind of watches the docket and then sends letters to those individuals or companies who are sued, letting them know that they've been sued and letting them know that we can help if they need a lawyer. I'm guessing there must be a way for firms to do that ethically under the Florida bar rules because I see some pretty prominent firms doing that.
Have you ever had to submit an advertisement for the Florida bar to the Florida bar for review? And what was that process like?
I did, but it was at least 15 years ago. We were doing some print ads and stuff at the time, and we felt that we needed to have those submitted. It was a very simple process as far as just sending in what you were going to be utilizing and where it was going to appear. And we got a letter back, I think, essentially saying, you guys probably didn't even need to submit this, because usually, like Damien and stuff, the advertisements that we are using mostly are of that basic information that there's an exception to under the advertising rules as far as getting pre-approval of. I mean, if you're just putting your practice areas and your contact information and basic information like that, you don't have to submit it into the bar. And that's generally what we're utilizing in our practice.
Yeah, I think we did it as well many, many years ago, maybe when we were first publishing the original iteration of our website. And I remember it being a pretty quick and easy process as well to get the approval.
I don't think so. I can't say 100%. We've been we've been in business since 1996, so that's about almost 30 years now in Naples. We haven't done that much advertising. I don't think we've submitted. I know we've checked rules when we've wanted to post certain things or advertise certain things, but I'm not sure that we've ever had to submit to the bar for approval.
Social media is a game changer for marketing, but some attorneys hesitate to use platforms like Instagram or TikTok. Is social media essential for legal marketing today?
I don't think it's essential, but just as the internet and websites were kind of the new thing, 20 years ago when we started thinking about these things, that's what these other platforms are today. So, I mean, if I was brand new and I had the time and I, had kind of more of that audience, I would encourage it completely. I mean, as long as you're doing it in a an ethical way and you're doing it in a way that promotes our profession and doesn't degrade our profession, 100%. No different than the new technologies or the new media forms that were in place 20 years ago. So if I was starting off today, I would 100% be involved on those.
And I use social media so sparingly, and when I do, it's usually limited to LinkedIn and occasionally Facebook. So I hope to never have to worry about incorporating social media much more into the marketing. As I said, we've got this outside firm that does assist us with business posts, firm-related posts on LinkedIn, on Facebook. I don't know that I've ever received any referral or any lead, or that anybody has found us in that way. And when I see occasionally on LinkedIn or Facebook how many people like one of our posts, it's not a big number. I think most people find us by word of mouth, by looking for law firms on the internet, and whether that's just through a Google search or checking out super lawyers or something like that. To me, that seems to be the most common way that people find us online, if they're finding us online at all.
Okay, let's move on to some practical advice and funny anecdotes. So what's one marketing mistake you made early on that you wish you could take back?
Well, when I was a really young lawyer, when we had just opened the office, I was over in Palm Beach, and I ran into a partner at a firm over there that I had clerked at for the summer, and he asked me what I was doing. I said I opened a practice in Naples, Florida, and we had a discussion of what the nature of my practice, and let's put it this way: our discussion was not as it would be today. I said some things that I probably would never say today. I was young, inexperienced, and so that's one incident that I have. It wasn't really a marketing, it was an interaction with a former firm talking about business and business generation. And that partner ended up being an officer of the Florida Bar, put it that way. So
Got it.
I always remember that day.
Hopefully it didn't come back and bite you later
No,
on.
it didn't. It really didn't. But it was an uncomfortable thing. You ever say something and you want to put it back in the bottle, but it's kind of too late. But I always think whenever I meet this person, or I think back to that time in the courthouse in Palm Beach, and I said, I don't want to do that again. So that was probably my most embarrassing marketing.
It wasn't that early on, but at one point in time, we were doing those electronic advertisement on the TV screens in the restaurants and such, and it just so happened COVID kicked in, so we had these electronic boards and electronic TV ads running in all these restaurants with nobody in there. So that didn't turn out that well. I can't think of any other real flops other than that. I think one of the things, though, I will say is one of the mistakes that I made in the marketing, we talked about this a little bit beforehand, is not adding into the equation how much of your own personal time is it going to take to do this type of marketing. And again, depending on where you are and what your caseload is and how many current clients you have, that can dictate how much marketing time you personally can do and what activities you can be involved with and such. But I would say, looking back, probably the other thing I did is I was involved with a few marketing networking groups and stuff that took too much of my time. And maybe at that time I could spend a little bit more, but looking back, I probably spent too much of my time in some of those ventures.
It's trial by error, though, right?
That is, and there's no silver bullet. I mean, that's the thing. You want to do a little bit of everything, and there's no source that any of us can really say, this is the thing that we did that got us the clients we needed to run an effective law firm. It's just doing a little bit of everything and trying to balance, your time, your money, and to put your marketing effort into the big comprehensive plan of what your law firm is going to be and what do you want it to be.
I've never made any mistakes, so I can't really help you on that question. No, I'm sure I have made plenty of mistakes, but I'm just ignorant of them. And they can range from ordering too much corporate swag to hand out at an event, and then your firm name changes and the corporate swag becomes a little bit obsolete, to certainly pushing off billable work to spend an entire day preparing for a presentation that maybe 5 people show up to, or writing that article for the adverse witness. And I don't know, was that the best investment of your time? You're never going to know. There were times in my career where I thought maybe I did myself a disservice by marketing myself as an employment lawyer, and people didn't really think of me as a business litigator, a general civil litigator. But overall, I'm happy collectively with what I've done in the area of marketing, and I feel blessed that it has paid off the way it has. So I'd like to at least think the mistakes weren't mistakes. So,
and I think holding yourself out as an employment lawyer was probably the smartest marketing move that you did, because it gave you that niche.
Yeah.
You're the guy who, if you have a business and they have an employment law issue, who are you going to send them to? You're going to send them to Damian Taylor, because he's
Brad Rothman.
Or Brad Rothman.
No, If he's the employee and he's being not treated well by one of your clients, then yes, you call Bradley Rothman. But if it's an employer side thing, I think that's, and I would encourage younger attorneys who are marketing themselves, make sure people know those niche areas. That's where you're going to get the referrals. Like Damian said, there's a lot of general civil. Everybody can do general civil litigation. But if you're a copyright attorney, or you do that and that's part of your practice, that's unique. Make sure people know about the copyright. I think that's probably the smartest marketing move you made, is to make sure people knew your niche.
Well, you're kind to say that, Rick. And personal injury, I think, is one of those niche areas too. But even if you don't think of yourself as having a niche, I would say it's real easy to take a case or a project or an issue that's something that you've worked on recently, which to you was kind of novel, and to turn that into an article, maybe for the adverse witness or for a presentation to the trial law section, or any other section. That's a good way to develop name recognition, and garner some face time, and just get people thinking about you.
Damian, I got to give you credit here too, because when I started working with you, you dragged me along to all these events, and you introduced me to everybody in town, and somehow you knew everyone at every event that you went to. You are a very personable and charismatic guy that people like to talk to and hang out with. That goes a long way, and taking the time to go to some chamber events that other lawyers may not be going to, getting involved in the community apart from the Bar Association, which is a wonderful association to be involved in, but getting involved in other things in the community that some other lawyers may not necessarily think about, is a great way to meet people and to network and market. And you've always done a great job at that.
Well, thank you. You find what works for you, right? It could be, a synagogue, church. It could be leadership Collier, associate leadership Collier. Could be, Rotary, Kiwanis. There's so many areas. I think the key is to just network and not put all your eggs in one basket. Find different organizations that appeal to you, and it has a way of making Naples, or wherever you are, Bonita, it has a way of making the area more than just a zip code or a collection of zip codes, and feel more like a community in home.
All right, second to last question. If you had unlimited marketing resources, what's one outrageous but effective campaign that you would like to try?
I mean, who wouldn't want a Super Bowl ad? I mean, come on, if it's unlimited, I mean, I want them talking about why is this guy in this personal injury attorney in Southwest Florida, why has he got a Super Bowl ad out there? What kind of buzz would you create from that? Of course, that's an easy one.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe have your own reality TV show. Another day in the life at Coleman, Taylor, Klaus, Dupay, Diaz, and Torres.
We'll just set up a camera in your office.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. See what's in the kitchen.
Well, a Super Bowl ad would be good. I won't steal that. Maybe a blimp at the Super Bowl, or a blimp at a major sporting event with a big advertisement for the firm. I grew up in New Jersey on the beach, and they used to have those seaplanes with they tow the little signs. So, maybe a nationwide advertising campaign with seaplanes, a couple pictures on it, and a catchy slogan.
Well, you guys have already given some great advice to young lawyers, but let me just ask for your top piece of advice for new lawyers trying to market their firm in 2025.
Top piece of advice would be to take a comprehensive view of the whole picture of your practice. Whether or not you are an associate at a big law firm, or you just started your own practice and you're a solo practitioner, no matter what you're doing, you want to take that global approach to it. What type of clients are going to come to you? What are you looking for? And if you're using an advertising budget and you have the means to have a budget for marketing, how can you put those dollars to best use? And be careful, I would say. I mean, if I just took the time to respond to every marketing person that contacts my office, I could spend a half a day just responding. I mean, you have to be able to really focus in and I personally think you got to take control of that. That's one thing I think that I would not do over, and I would say that some people would think I was crazy, but I never really given control of our marketing over to just a company. And I think you need to have control over your own marketing plan. And again, whether that means you're looking to network with business groups, okay, well then you need to start getting involved in those type of business networking opportunities and groups and chambers and such. Whereas if you are, looking for a personal injury client, well, then it's a little different. You're not a little bit harder to pinpoint like who's going to call me, who needs me, but you need to come up with the plan as to what does your ideal client look like, and how are you going to each day consistently try to get your name or out there, or to network and to market, so that people know that if this particular type of issue ever does come up, hey, this is the guy I'm going to give their number to, or this is the attorney that I would suggest and recommend. And a lot of that is, like Damien had said earlier, is consistency and just showing up to these things. And I would say too, just don't put so much pressure on it. You're not going to go to a Rotary Club meeting next Wednesday and then get a client from that. I mean, you could, that'd be great, but you're doing it consistently, you're getting people to know you, you're getting to know them, and that you're just letting people know what you do, and making sure that that's real clear and precise, and easy for them to tell their friends and loved ones, hey, this is the person to call because this is exactly what they do.
To me, it's really a combination of things, multifaceted. I think, to Rick's point, you have to be patient, and you can't beat yourself up when referrals and clients don't start streaming through the door. I think for some people are lucky, and they just hit it out of the park with marketing, with client development. For other people, it can take years to lay the groundwork. And so if you fall into the latter camp, it's okay. That's very normal, and you just have to be patient. I think you have to provide excellent service to those clients and to those people who may refer clients to you. You can have the greatest marketing plan in the world, but if you fall down on the service and the responsiveness and the professionalism, more than likely your marketing genius is not going to succeed for long anyway. And then I think I agree with Rick. You're probably going to have to do a combination of things, and it helps if you enjoy those things. I can remember when I first became a partner in my firm, Michael Coleman and Bill Hazard challenged me to come up with a marketing plan, and I had no clue what I was doing. They gave me some ideas, and I put together a plan. I don't know how well I stuck to it, but it was a great exercise because it got me thinking about the different components that should go into such a plan. And it included everything from applying to Leadership Collier, getting involved with that program, going to X number of chamber events a year, taking this number of people to lunch every month, and even identifying who are the first 10 people I'm going to take to lunch. Maybe a lawyer that I met at Inza Court, or somebody I met at a chamber event, or a fellow board member on this for this organization, and then how soon after that am I going to follow up, and how soon after that do I think I may generate a referral? And so much of that again is unpredictable, and you never know where the business is going to come from. But it was a great exercise in helping me just think creatively about what the options are, and I put it into practice. Again, I don't know, whether it paid results or not, but it was a helpful exercise.
Well, don't make the mistake that I made that I mentioned,
which we don't know about.
My advice for new lawyers is, number one, learn the law. We all know that when you get out of law school, it's an eye-opening experience. Learn the law, do the work. You have to do, in my opinion, you have to do quality work, represent your clients to the best of your ability, and try and get results for clients. That will pay dividends your entire career. You'll build it. It has for me. It has for my partner and the lawyers at my firm. So number one, you have to do the work. You have to develop a level of competence. Number two is get involved with organizations like the Collier County Bar, Inns of Court. I was involved for a number of years. I took a little time off, and then I'm back involved now.
I think they got you back this year and made you a team leader right away.
Well, they tried to. I declined that position, okay, and then ended up having a larger role than I wanted. But
that was a good presentation, by the way.
They I think that's important, to be involved with attorneys interacting. It's important for two reasons. Number one, anytime you exchange ideas with lawyers, it's a good thing. Number two is you develop, a rapport with the people that you may litigate against. And, when you pick up the phone and you call someone, you put the face, you put the face to the name, and you have it's a more civil discourse, I think, when you know people personally. When geez, it's Eric Olson. I see him all the time. He's a good guy. Call you on the phone, say, hey, Eric, can I get an extension? Whatever you need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's important to develop a rapport with the bar. The third thing I think that is extremely important is to have the utmost respect for the courts and the judicial process. Your integrity, at least my belief is the number one asset you have as a litigator, at least in our business as litigators, is the confidence of the court. When you go into court and you make a statement, when you go into court and present legal authorities, that the court is confident that you are making a correct legal statement. You're not misrepresenting anything. You're not coloring anything. You're being just absolutely honest with the courts. When you develop that credibility with the courts, I think it's invaluable to an attorney, and I think it starts when you're young.
All right, gentlemen, that wraps up our panel discussion.
I don't envy you having to go through all of that and just cut out so much and figure out
fine.
where, golly, that would take me forever.
And I want to commend you all for your exceptional answers and your insights, and the future lawyers that I'm sure will learn from this panel discussion and hopefully practice better here in Collier and Lee and the surrounding counties. For Florida attorneys looking to stay compliant, I do recommend checking out the Florida Bar's Handbook on Lawyer Advertising and Solicitation. There's a lot of good information in there. And their latest updates to Rules 4-7.11 through 4-7.22. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep marketing smart, keep it ethical, and keep growing your practice. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will be seeking CLEs for this podcast, and I'm sure there will probably be a banner underneath me that says how to obtain that CLE code.